I don't talk a lot about this man I'm about to share today, Dave Ramsey, but I owe a lot to my ability to potentially retire sometime this decade to what I've learned from him over the past roughly 10 years. I paid off my first house around 10 years ago because of some things I learned from him, and I'm positioned to have a decent retirement, again, because of things that I learned from his show. He's talking about housing and a way to make it more affordable. Listen to and watch what Dave has to say about that.
And this is actually one of the few times you'll hear Dave say that the government could actually do something about this, okay? One is we've got large REITs, real estate investment trusts, and American corporations and Chinese corporations buying thousands and thousands and thousands of single-family homes and taking them off the market and putting them up for rent. I mean, like 500,000 or 600,000 in the past few years. It's crazy. A lot. It's not just a few. So one thing you could do, and I'm really against limiting free enterprise, but when the basic use of a single-family home is for a family to get a toehold in the marketplace and to build wealth and to have a stable place to live, when that's being affected by foreign organizations and by out-of-control capitalism, then you got to put some limits on that. So some kind of a stoppage, stop that.
Yeah.
Another thing that's draining the market is Airbnbs. Tens of thousands of single-family homes, condos, co-ops, whatever, are off. They're bought by people at unrealistic prices only because they're turning them into a hotel. And they're making tons of money, and people are buying 8, 10, 20, 15 of them at a time. And that did not exist 20 years ago. Okay? And so some kind of a limitation, not necessarily a complete stopping of that,
right,
but limiting the number of units that go off the market so that a young couple getting married have a house to buy instead of it turning into an Airbnb because somebody bought it nothing down using some stupid TikTok guy's formula to buy it. Okay, so, some kind of limitation on that. But here's one. I was talking to Brian Buffini about this the other day. He's the top real estate coach.
Yeah. He's in this.
He's really into this stuff. And he and I were having a discussion on the back porch about it. And he had such great ideas. He said, and I had not thought of this, and I just thought it's brilliant. So it's been, I need to look it up when it was, but it's at least 20 years ago that the capital gains law on single-family homes was changed. And it was a big deal. It used to be that you got a tax break a little bit on your personal residence. And they changed it massively, whatever it was 20 years ago, and said, okay, married filing jointly, you can make up to $500,000. Single, you can make up to $250,000 tax-free
on the growth of your
capital
home.
gain on your personal residence if you own it 1 year or more. Okay? And that was a big breakthrough. Well, guess what? $500,000 isn't much anymore. And he said raising that to $1 million would take a bunch of boomers
out of their home
that would say, I would downsize, but I'm going to have to pay so stinking much tax that I'm not going to downsize. And see, if that level will sell, the next level sells to move up into that, and the next level below that moves up. You create a domino down the price points. And so giving $1 million exemption instead of a $500,000 exemption, and even do it on all small ownership.
Yeah.
So if you had 2 rentals and you want to dump them, and you can make up to $1 million, you dump those back into the inventory pool for that sweet young couple to have a place to buy.
I think it would have been cool, real cool, to be on that back porch when he had this conversation with this friend of his, because Dave is no slouch himself. It's been a while since I've heard him reveal this, but the last time I did hear him say the value of his real estate alone was like $600 million. I heard him say that. And if you know Dave Ramsey, you know he doesn't borrow money. So if it's worth $600,000, it's all paid for. That's just his real estate. And I know he says he invests in 2 things: real estate that he pays cash for and growth stock mutual funds. So you combine whatever his growth stock mutual fund portfolio is with his the value of his real estate, he's probably a low-key billionaire or very close to it. And I know he has all these personalities on his show now, including his daughter and other personalities, so that when he steps away, it could still be called The Ramsey Show and it still has an audience, not just for him. But I like hearing the guy that started it all because he speaks with a level of authority because he's the one that they're all working for. They have jobs because of him. So let's continue to hear it from the horse's mouth.
But they don't want to get rid of that rental because the tax.
The amount of taxes.
And there is no capital gains break on that, except you're paying 15%, or if you make over $400,000, you pay 20%.
Right.
So you get hammered if you've got a house. Like I've got a bunch of houses. I probably got 15 houses. Most of our real estate's not houses, but I got 15 or 20. And I would dump those stupid things because I got a lot of gain in them. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to give the government a bunch of money. So I'm going to have to do some kind of 1031, roll them, and I'll get them back out of the market and turn them into commercial property. But most people won't do that. I actually know how to do it. Your husband and I will be doing that together. So, but if you gave people a tax break on the rentals that they own and a tax of up to $1 million,
yeah,
and on their personal residence, there'd be a bunch of houses going to market.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that would stimulate this inventory. So if we could start dumping in, and he brought up one other thing that's really technical, but it's true. So when you do development, if you develop a subdivision, if you're a developer, you buy a piece of land and you put in a street and you put in the utilities and you go through all the stupid permitting and you put up with a stupid city and you go through all the stupid stuff about the trees and the stupid stuff about the creeks.
See, this is somebody who's lived through all that stuff that the other people that are Ramsey personalities probably can't speak with this kind of authority. They might not throw the word stupid out there, but he's somebody who's had to interface with the government on all these things. And, he's got a certain amount of time in between commercials to make a point. And so he's just going to cut right through it. And the word that a lot of people understand is stupid. So he'll use it to offend some folks, but I like it. Go for it.
And all the stupid stuff you have to do to develop a subdivision, right? It's ridiculous, okay? When you finish with all that stupid stuff, all those expenses you can't expense. They have to be depreciated over a large number of years. So you could put $15 million in a sewer system for a subdivision,
yeah,
and you don't get to write off $15 million. You get to write off $1 million a year for 15 years or something like that.
And if you up that.
And he said, if you just said they can expense it instead of depreciating it, that would stimulate developers to start building subdivisions.
This is also part of Trump's tariff plan. When people build things here instead of continuing to build them overseas, the tariff is to encourage them to build here. So avoiding the tariff is one way they can save money, but also a way they can save is he's going to allow them whatever money it takes for them to rebuild their factories here, he's going to allow them to expense them like Dave is talking about here. Instead of depreciating the cost to build or rehab a factory, an old factory, into something that's new, they're going to be able to expense that capital. In fact, that is called capital expense, CapEx. I think that's a good thing.
Which would stimulate.
Yeah.
And so you could do that, but that's giving the evil businessman a tax break. Oh my God, you liberals. But anyway, but this is how you get the thing started. Mm-hmm. You actually get tax breaks to people to cause them to do this stuff. Let me keep my money and I'll go do stuff.
Yeah.
That's what investors say. And that's what people say when they're selling their house. I'm not selling this house. I'm not giving the government all that money. It's my money. And if you say, okay, you could keep your money, it'll stimulate the stinking inventory.
Yeah.
The other side of the coin, though, and I've almost used up all my time here, and I'm not going to take 2 segments on this, is we're increasingly realizing that the 25 and 26-year-old in America has been screwed by the large banks and the car companies like never before, like no generation before. So if you're 25 or 26, you've been screwed by the big banks like you've never been screwed before.
From the loans that they're having
The
to
loans.
take.
They've, you cannot buy a house when you have a $1,200 car payment, when you have a student loan that's $85,000, and you got credit card debt coming out your ears. Record credit card debt, record car debt, record debt, debt. And then you sit there and whine you can't buy a house because you got victimized by these people. You set yourself up for it. You signed up for the trip, baby. But you've been screwed by the Citibanks. What's in your wallet? The money that's going to Citibank. It should have been going to buy you a house.
He mentions a lot of good things there. I can't disagree. One thing he leaves out is he's not talking about the immigration thing. That's part of why housing is unaffordable. The immigration thing, which is why people don't have the pay coming from their employer to handle this debt. I don't think people are just spend. I think a lot of this is survival. I do believe there are ways to spend less, but there are times when I was spending less, but what really got in the way was employment insecurity. I had some of it earlier this year and last year, where I was out of work for 49 weeks out of a 52-week period. And I got really good at, thankfully, I learned some things from this guy on how to have an emergency fund and spend less than I make. So I had some breathing room. But when you're 25, you're just getting started. You need a car. Maybe it doesn't have to be a new car. But my goodness, I look at what used cars cost today, and I'm not excited. I've been in the marketplace for a while, so I've got some things. I've got some options financially. But I have options that I didn't have when I was 25 and just getting started. As I didn't have the debt that they have either, but school, to get the degree that I have from the same university, it will cost 6 to 8, maybe 9 times as much to get the same education. If I had to spend 6 to 9 times as much, I don't think it would have worked out. Well, you say, well, it's inflationary. No, it's not just inflation. For someone to get the same education, it will cost them 6 to 9 times as much. But they would only be making, their starting salary would be 2 to 2.5 times what my starting salary was. For them to have the same return on investment, it needs to be 6 to 8, 9 times as much as what my starting salary was. But it's not that. So their ability to launch, to get into family creation, to be a homeowner by the time they're 30, 35 years old. All of this is getting delayed because of debt. As he talked about, he would have probably gone into more detail, but he was trying to squeeze everything into one segment. Like I said, squeezing some stuff in between commercials. But he didn't talk about the immigration issue and how that affects the cost of everything. Food, clothing, housing, insurance, transportation, healthcare. Maybe that's not his bag. Maybe he didn't want to go there. I got to think he's aware of it. You saw how he said, you stupid liberals. You can't get a job from a broke person. So I understand why that circular argument of, oh, we're only giving tax cuts to the rich. Well, you can't get a job from a broke person or a broke company. As soon as the company starts going broke, the owner starts going broke, they get rid of folks. They don't always do it. Dave has a very good video talking about corporate America and layoffs. Maybe I'll do a reaction to that. It's an older video, but it's worth revisiting. You know, you have an obligation when you're hiring somebody, and he talks about that as an owner. Some folks don't see that. They see the people as a liability, and that's why it's easier for them to get rid of those folks. But if you want to make it easier for them not to get rid of you, help them keep more of their own money. Help the company be profitable. Anyway, that's all I have on this particular video. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.